Hello. We are here today with Jim Serrano, who reached out to us on our website, and another adoptee to tell his story, which I'm really excited to hear. I know you've been making the circuit, Jim, so thank you for giving us the time. We appreciate it.
Welcome.
You must have a
Jim.
compelling story. What's,
Yeah.
And you're coming today from California, right?
Yeah, I live in Northern California.
Oh, Louise
Close
is in
to me.
Central California.
I'm in Central
Yeah.
Coast. Mhm.
Oh, I'm in Gilroy.
Oh, you're in Gilroy. Mhm.
Yeah.
My best friend. Shout out to Amy Brown. She's in Gilroy too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard
I know
that
it
name
well.
before.
I know it
Yeah,
well.
You know
yeah.
Amy?
Gilroy Garlic
Maybe?
Festival.
Yeah.
The Garlic Festival. Yes, I went to that years ago. Oh, I miss
Yeah.
California.
It misses you. Well, so Jim, tell us your adoption story from the beginning. We don't know it, and we'd love our listeners to hear it fresh.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Well, let's see. Next month I'm going to be 61. I was born January 22nd in 1962 in San
Happy
Jose,
birthday,
California.
cuspy Aquarius
Thank you.
Capricorn.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So I was born in 62 in January 22nd and in San Jose. My parents that adopted me were Joe and Lupe Serrano, and they live here in Gilroy, where I'm living at now. And San Jose is about 35 minutes from Gilroy. So they adopted me at about 6 months of age.
Wait, what? And what year were you born? Oh, you were
62.
You're a
62.
baby scoop.
Yeah, exactly.
And where were you
62.
Where were you those 6 months?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one thing I always think about too in my story. Goes, I mean, you think about who held you, who burped you, who picked you up when you cried, who named me Freddie, because when I got when I got my papers from my parents that adopted me, when I started my search, my papers said Freddie. I have no clue who named me Freddie. So who knows? That's a mystery that I'll never know either. Because that hospital and those people back then, they're probably all passed away by now, right?
Yeah.
So I was born in 62. My parents adopted me at 6 months of age. They also adopted a sister of mine, Barbara, about a year older than me.
So did they already have her when you came into the family?
No. They adopted us at the same time.
Oh, okay, so she was about a year and a half, and you were about 6 months old.
Yeah, and they already had 3 of their own biological kids. They had my 2 sisters that are probably about 20 years older than me, and a brother. So it was Susie, Hopi, and Joe Jr. because my dad's name was Joe too. So they had their 3 children, and then they adopted us.
So was it kind of like when the older kids got older and they decided they weren't ready to not be parents?
Well, I'm going to the story why they adopted me, because I just found this out probably about 10 years
okay,
ago.
good.
Yeah, so it's a part of the story.
Okay.
So I was raised in Gilroy, California all my life, and the next question is probably you will ask me. It was, when did you know you were adopted? Well, that's kind of always going to be a mystery to me too, because they never sat me down to tell me I was adopted. They sat down with my sister, tell them, but they never told me. But I always remember growing up that I was always teased that they got me at a supermarket. That was the joke. And I always thought, okay, I thought they were just teasing, till I kind of figured out, wait a minute, I don't really look like them too much, and so I kind of finally figured it out that I was adopted.
Who did the teasing on that? Your siblings?
Everybody.
Like a kind of a like, we got
like
you at
a
the
family joke. Yeah, exactly.
It's cruel. That's a really cruel
joke.
Well,
I mean, it was a different era and different way of them coping with them not telling me, I guess. But I didn't really I figured it out myself. And so, but as a child, I never talked about it. Growing up, I never really talked about it. I always hid it. Back, as adoptees, we always put that facade, and like happy-go-lucky people pleaser, and you never want to admit all the hurt and trauma like in your soul and your mind, right? So you never said nothing. I did it. So so growing up as the youngest son, well, the baby in the family, my dad was more of a old school Latino Chicano. Don't show no love, don't hug, don't show no affection. And I got that from both my parents. And I never heard the words "I love you." There was no hugs. There was no conversation. Nothing. I actually was talking to my wife the other day, and I was thinking about my past, and I got, when's the one time that I really reached out to my dad to tell him that I loved him? It was probably at his retirement party, because both me and my dad both retired from the same company. We used to drive concrete ready mix trucks for a company in San Jose. So he had 30 years. I had 30 years in the company. So I retired in 2012, and he retired a long time before that. But so I figured he would be proud of me, because we were only father and son to retire from the company. But he never said nothing to me. He never said, "Great job, son," or nothing. And I always said, "Wow, shoot, man, what is wrong? I mean, what is wrong with me? Well, I don't feel no love. I've never had a hug, nothing." And so finally, I asked my sister that about 2 years ago, and I asked her, I goes, "Why don't you think they ever told me that I was adopted?" And she tells me, "I don't know, Jim. I really don't know why they did." Because that's kind of weird. But then I asked her a question. I asked her, they had a son named Georgie, and their son Georgie, he passed away as a child. He was like, I don't know, I can't get it right. Either he was 1 or 2 years old. So they lost a child. So after that, my sister told me that my mom was going through a nervous breakdown because losing their child. And of course, I think maybe that's why they adopted. But see, I came in the picture as the boy.
The replacement boy.
Yes. So I always felt like, I told this to my sister, and she didn't disagree with me. She asked me, I told her, I go, "Susie, do you think maybe he resented me because I was the replacement?" And she didn't say nothing. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I had to be the reason, because how can't you not be proud of your son that retired from the same company as you, followed your footsteps? I mean, I played sports. I was good in sports, and he went to my banquets, but never said congratulations, never hugged me, shook my hand, nothing.
You're really the product of so many things coming together.
Yeah.
Culture, the era, and
exactly.
He didn't have the baby that they lost.
Exactly.
And you're just
And
the pleaser.
Way
you're the
to
pleaser.
You're already dealing. First of all, 6 months is fairly old to, you've already experienced stuff, and who knows what kind of nurturing you got. Then you're put into this, for all intents and purposes, kind of cold family that just compounds that abandonment and pain. And
yes.
I want to ask you really quick, how did he treat Joe Jr.?
Well, that's kind of that situation was, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm very transparent. That was pretty bad too. I mean, I know my brother left to Houston, Texas, out of California, like I think maybe when I wasn't even 20 when he left, because he couldn't get along with my dad either. I mean, him and my dad used to argue a lot. And so I don't know. My dad was very, I don't know. He was kind of like very kind of mean, kind of angry at something. I don't know what he was always angry at, but he was a perfectionist. That's one thing about my dad.
He was what?
I mean, he was a perfectionist. So he was a man's man. He was a hard worker. he taught me things that, I probably never would have learned, but I had to do
Was
it
he a
right.
drinker?
Yes.
Oh.
But he drank just at home. He didn't go out to the bars or anything like that. But he did come home and drink his scotch and water every day. And so that's the part of it that I was talking about earlier, is that the first time I tried to show love to my dad was at his retirement party. And it was just me and him in the room, right? All kinds of people were there, and I got him alone. And, hey, Dad, I just want to thank you for everything you did for me. I really appreciate you and I love you. And he just looked at me and he just goes, oh, get out of here. And he pushed me away.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was all, wow. And it's funny though, I seen a thing on TikTok with Terry Lewis. And he talked about him and his dad, how he tried to show love to his dad, and his dad would push him away too. So I don't know. I mean, my wife, Tina, we've been married for 38 years. I listen to her all the time because she's always gives me all this wisdom about life and stuff like that. And
I like Tina.
Yeah, yeah, me too. So she tells me, well, maybe he just didn't know how, he wasn't raised in that, babe, and he just doesn't know how to show affection.
And
But
his
still,
father
it
probably
hurt.
was treated him
Yes.
the same.
Exactly.
It's like
It's
a
probably embarrassing
generational.
for him, almost like, oh, I don't know what to do with
Yes.
that.
Yes, yes. And that's what I seen in his face. It was like he was embarrassed that I actually
Mhm.
said, I love you, Dad. But he couldn't say it back to me. He just pushed me away. I'll
What
always
about your
remember that.
sister?
Oh,
were they affectionate to her?
Yes. I think because she was I'm gonna be honest. I mean, she was I think she was the favorite child because she did really well for herself. I mean, she went to Cal Berkeley. She graduated from there. She became a news reporter, editor. Now she's an attorney in Seattle. So she did really good. My parents were real proud of her, but they never showed that same effort to me. So that's why I always thought. That's why I asked my sister. I go, maybe it was because I was the replacement son that they lost. So then I asked my sister kept on telling me when we were having that conversation. She goes, but there's one thing about you, Jim. You change your whole way of thinking. Your whole personality changed when you're like 11 or 12. And he goes, okay. And I'm thinking, all right, now I know exactly what she's talking about. Well, see, no one's known this till I started doing the podcast about 3-4 years ago. That between the ages of between 9 and 11, I was being sexually molested by a male cousin, and he was in his 20s, and I was only 9 or 10.
Oh, what awful pain you've gone through.
You know what? I'm still standing. I'm still strong.
Yeah, I'm just feeling a real wave of
I understand. I appreciate the compassion from everybody when I start telling my story, but the way I'm gonna beat this trauma is by telling my story all the time, and I won't stop. So they didn't know this. They never knew that because I couldn't go to anybody as a child.
Well, it sounds like you had nowhere to go for that.
No. I didn't have anybody to go.
That's why you're an easy target, honestly.
Yes, exactly. And I didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't. And the funny part about it too is I admitted it to Tina when I was, and my daughter when I was 52 years old. I'm 61. I just admitted to him 9 years ago, and because we were going for an ice cream, and we heard this thing on the radio. It was talking about sexual abuse as children. And right there, it just hit me. Tell him, Jim. Tell him. And you've held this secret for over 40 years. Tell him. So I told Tina and Elizabeth that I was molested as a child, and they couldn't believe it. And they couldn't believe it. But it was time. It was time for me to let that out.
Yeah.
Because it was killing me because I started drinking when I was 10 years old too. See, I started drinking when I was 10, and thank God that next month, January 22nd, is going to be 23 years of my sobriety.
Oh, congratulations.
So
Jim, this is huge that you have this, that you have Tina and Elizabeth that love
yeah,
you so much
oh,
that
they
you
do.
could be, I mean, that you can say that, right? I mean, especially for
Mhm.
a man, I know it's
Yes.
very, I mean, for women
That,
too, but it's very shameful. And so for
yes.
you to carry,
And
and
then
then,
obviously coming from your macho father,
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
you know, that,
I
that,
mean, and in me too, pretending, trying to be that
yeah,
macho
of
guy.
course.
I mean, when I was a kid, I used to drink and I used to fight a lot. I mean,
Sure.
it's funny. I went back to training about 6 years ago, and I train in Muay Thai and kickboxing. Matter of fact, I'm going to fight in 2 weeks. I'm 61 years old. I'm still fighting, and people always ask me, "Man, you're crazy, Jim. Why do you do that?" You know, it's for me because I'm doing. I think it might be part of my trauma because it relieves a lot of stuff in me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But I don't go at my opponent or any of my teammates with anger. It's just something that I need in my life. So that's why I've been doing it for 6, 7 years now. But after I told them that, it kept going, and they couldn't believe that happened to me and stuff like that. And so, so time went by. This is when we were living in a town about 35 miles, well, 45 miles from Gilroy, where I live now. It's called Los Baños.
Oh yeah, I
Eh,
know
Yeah, yeah.
it.
So that's where I used to live for like 20 years.
Some good Mexican food there, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. So, I was watching a program on TV. I don't know if it was Oprah or whatever. It was a talk show. They were talking about adoptees searching for the biological parents and how you could do it, and you could get non-identity information. So, excuse me. So I looked at the program and I looked at Tina and waited for Tina to get home from work because she's been a school teacher for like 20 years now, and waited for her to get home from work. And I told her, "Hey, I seen this program on TV, and I think it's time because I think it's time for me to go search." So, um, well, let's start, babe. I said, "Okay. Well, the first thing you got to do is the toughest part is going to my adopted parents to ask them that I was going to go search if they had any
And
paperwork."
what year was this?
This was 22 years ago.
Oh, it's a
Oh,
while
okay.
ago.
Yeah. So it was like early internet stages and
Yes, 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 yes.
yeah.
No cell phones.
No,
No
so you
cell
had
phones.
to you had to go to them for that information as opposed to like Ancestry or 23andMe.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So, so I went to my mom and dad and I told them this is what I wanted to do. You could see the hurt in my dad's face and in my mom's face. They didn't want me to do it. Matter of fact, they never even asked me about my search. And when the rest of the story, they never even asked me about it. They didn't want to know. So, of course, the good old thing, they probably thought I was trying to replace them. Then I remember my dad says, "Okay, we got your paperwork, but are you ready to find out what's out there for you?" And I go, "Yeah, I am, Dad." And I remember him telling me one time, "But you're a Serrano." Because, "Yeah, Dad, you say I'm a Serrano, but I'm not. That's not my blood. Nobody here has my blood. I'm not a Serrano." And so
It's
they
funny
gave me the paper.
how protective they are, but yet weren't
Yes,
loving. You know what I mean?
yes, yes, yes. And
It's
that's funny. Is that that's the first time I ever heard "I love you" from my mom,
mm,
because I went to him and I told him I was going to start searching, but she didn't tell me that day. It probably maybe I always remember like 4 or 5 months after that she started telling me she loved me. In my mind, I'm thinking, wow, it took me to come and you feeling scared that I was trying to replace you to tell me you love me. It took that. Of course, I never heard it from my dad, but I heard that from my mom. So
and
I started at
you were in your 30s, I'm guessing.
37,
37. Okay.
37, 37. So, and my daughter Elizabeth was what, 15, 16? Because my daughter Elizabeth, she's going to be, she's 35 now. And um, so I started the search. non-identity information. So it says you go to the county records department in Santa Clara County. So the place where I used to work at Central Concrete was like 2 blocks from the county records place. So after work, I, went to the 7th floor, went there and asked the lady at the desk, hey, I'm here. I'm an adoptee. I got adopted in 62. I was wondering if I could get my non-identity information. She just looked at me and goes, okay, but it might take a while. Because, okay, how long is it a while? And she goes, oh, maybe 6 months. All right, so I got a little depressed, right? It says, okay, I filled out the waiver and whatever else you had to fill out information, right? So one day, maybe about a month later, I was walking to my mailbox to get our mail, right? And I see this letter, it says the County of Santa Clara. And first thing I thought in my mind was, well, it might be jury duty, or did I get a ticket? Because I don't remember getting a ticket, right? And so I opened it up. It was my non-identity information.
Just a month later?
Yeah, a month later.
Yeah, it's good.
So I don't know what happened, but it happened. So I opened it up and it says your mother was 5'1", 5'2", 89 pounds.
Wow.
She had a daughter and a son when she gave birth to you. She worked in a medical office. She lived with your grandparents. Then on the biological father's side, it says, okay, your biological father was 5'7", medium built, dark hair, brown eyes. He went to high school till 10th grade and quit to go work full time. And that's all it said. And I was more like a one night stand what I was. So I had that, right?
And you have siblings and
yes. And that's the part you're going to hear. That's kind of like a stab in the back for me. But you have to forgive or you're not going to get through life.
Yeah.
So, and it's still a process. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm still processing it all. But, so one day I was delivering concrete to a job site and I know this person, his name is Carlos Bryan. So I delivered concrete to his construction company for like 20 years. I knew him. So he goes, hey, Jim, how's it going? He goes, good. He goes, so what have you been up to? I haven't seen you in a while. He goes, well, you want to know the truth? He goes, sure. I says, well, I'm looking for my biological family. He goes, you are? He goes, yeah, I am. I mean, Joe's not your dad? Because, my dad was still working there at the company. He goes, no, that's not my dad. He goes, oh, wow, I thought Joe was your dad. No, I was adopted. He goes, wow. So do you know any information? So I told him about the non-identity information that I had. And he looked at me kind of weird and he goes, wow, when were you born, Jim? I goes, I was born in 62 in January. And he looked at me again. He goes, wow, Jim. He goes, that person that person that you're describing, your biological mother, sounds just like Marie. I go, what are you talking about? I goes, Marie, this girl that I was dating in the early 60s. And everything you said in that piece of paper is Marie. I heard that we had a brief affair, and I heard that through the rumor mill and all that she had got pregnant and she gave the baby up for adoption. But I didn't know who she got pregnant from or what was happening.
Come on. You work with this guy?
Yeah, I know. I delivered concrete to his company for 20 years.
My goodness.
So he goes, okay. And then I told him, he goes, I'm going to give you some information about my biological father now. And he goes, okay. And everything I said in it described him. But one thing.
God.
But one thing, because he said he was going to try and look for this girl named Marie. He goes, I'll try and look for her for you. All right. So I described the information I had about him. And he goes, wow. Because exactly Carlos, exactly. But there's one thing that I didn't ask him because I was so, hyped up and nervous and just.
Oh my gosh, for sure. This is
so
like a business transaction turned into this.
Yeah. So I left the job site and went straight to a phone booth and I called Tina Go, hey, babe. I goes, what else does this thing about my biological father? He goes, why? He goes, this is what happened. This is what's happening right now, babe. He goes, oh my God. She says, oh, it says that, this, that. But it says about him quitting high school in 10th grade to go work full time. So, okay, well, I didn't ask him that. So I went back to the job site and he goes, hey, Jim, what are you doing? How come you're back? Because I gotta ask you a question, bro. He goes, what's up? I goes, did you go to high school? Did you graduate and everything, Carlos? He goes, oh no, I quit in 10th grade to go work full time. That's exactly
Oh
what
my
what you
God.
said. So he goes, wow. And he goes, wow, I think you're my son. I goes,
Oh
I
my
think
God.
I think you're my father.
Did you look
So
alike?
yeah, kind of, yeah. Because everybody used to thought I was either Filipino or Hawaiian,
I
right?
thought you were
And
Hawaiian a little bit.
yeah,
Mhm.
well, yeah, because I did my DNA and that's a trip too. But so um,
Okay,
like
Jim,
2
this
days,
is bizarre.
I know. So 2 days later, I was at our driver's room, right? We're getting ready to punch in for work, and there's another driver there named Johnny. And Johnny says, "Hey Jim," I goes, "I heard about you and Carlos." I looked at him, and go, "How do you know?" And he goes, "I know your sister." What do you mean, my sister? Well, I used to live with Carlos's daughter, which would be your sister. And I told him about you. So she wants to meet you. He goes, oh, okay. So we used to have this called Fair May Day Fair in Los Banos, a whole week of the fair being in town, right? So, but before that, I went to have lunch with her and her son. I met her and introduced myself, and I said, "Hey, would you like to come down to my home in Los Banos and spend the weekend with us? And we'll take you to the fair and all that stuff." So her and her son came. Then, well, that time, me and Carlos were planning Christmases and stuff like that already, because and we went to go take a blood test. We went together to go take a blood test. So usually the blood test takes like 6-7 weeks for it to come in. So here I am, open up the mailbox again, and I always remember because I tell my story all the time, and I still get emotional. I don't know why. It just comes back and just like it happened yesterday. So it was negative. He wasn't my father.
He was not
Yeah,
your father.
he was not my father.
And you're like going down this whole thing with them. I like that he wanted to be your father.
Yes,
I mean that he was that.
I wanted it too. I
Yeah.
wanted it too because he was a heck of a nice guy. He introduced me to his wife and everything, and it was like, this is awesome. My dreams coming true. But it didn't happen. So Tina goes, well, babe, don't give up. We'll keep on searching. It's all right. So 6 months passed, and my wife was talking to our neighbor that used to live across the street. Her name was Connie. Her husband was Dominic. So Dominic and me, we hit it off as friends, and we played softball together, and I played on his team and all that, and we became friends. And Tina and Connie were talking, and Connie admitted to Tina that Dominic was adopted. And then Tina said, Jim's adopted. Because he is. He goes, yeah. He goes, wow. And it goes, yeah, Dominic went searching for his parents, but I think they both were deceased already when he found them. He goes, wow. So Tina kind of told Connie my story. And Connie says, go talk to Dominic. It's okay, I'll go talk to Dominic. So I went across the street and sat down with Dominic and told him about my story and all that. He goes, well, there's a program, it's called Adoptee Identity Discovery. It was in the Valley, but they had a group in Santa Clara County. He goes, but there's meetings in Santa Clara County you could go attend, Jim. He said, all right. So I went to a meeting. There was like 7 adoptees, and either their spouses or family members showed up. And the gentleman, I always call him my angel, his name was Neil Kiley. Older gentleman. He's like close to 75, maybe close to 80. And all he did was help adoptees try to find their biological families. So I took my paperwork in there, and at the same time, I was feeling a little bit more guilty because at that time, my mom that raised me was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I was feeling guilty about searching while she had cancer and
Of course,
trying
because adoptees should always feel guilty.
yes, about trying to save her life, right? So
Yeah.
so I'm there, and he goes, okay, well, thanks for the information. The meeting was like maybe 3-4 hours. He goes, maybe in a couple of weeks I'll have some names for you. And I said, okay. He didn't even charge us or nothing. He goes, how's this old guy, going to get information to tell me who my biological mother is? So, shoot, he was like maybe a week after. He calls me. He goes, I got 3 names for you, Jim. Because 3 names, that could be your biological mother. Okay. Their names and their addresses. I said, okay. So he gave me one name for Long Beach, one for LA, and one for San Jose, California. And I had their addresses, right? So here I am driving my concrete truck, working, and I'm going down this one street called White Road in Alum Rock. And that was one of the addresses that I had in my pocket, because I had those addresses in my pocket all the time. And I just looked, and I go, there's the address of one of the houses that might be my biological mother.
In San Jose.
In San Jose. So I pulled over.
With the concrete truck?
With the concrete truck. I said, okay, what can I do? Okay, I know. I'm lost. I have concrete. I'm trying to find a house that ordered this concrete. So I go and knock on the door. And this guy answered the door. He kind of looked like me. And I asked him, hey, I'm looking for this address. Did you order any concrete? And he goes, no, I didn't order no concrete. Oh, okay, well, I'll call dispatch and find out what house it is. Thank you anyway. So I took off, right? So a week after that, Neil Kiley calls me. I'm in Gilroy at my cousin's house. Calls me about, I don't know, 8:30 at night. And he tells me, okay, Jim, I found your biological mother. I found her. You did? Which one is it? She lives in San Jose. It's the address on San Jose. I told Neil, Neil, I have to tell you something. He goes, what? I stopped at that house a couple weeks ago. And he goes, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, wow, you're not supposed to do that. I goes, yeah, but I did it. I did it anyway. So this is the house. Okay. He goes, here's her number, her phone number. So I always remember it's like 9:15, 9:17. And I pick up the phone and I call the number. I knew my brother's names. It was Paul and Bobby. And I had a sister named Wanda. She's the oldest. But she lived in Montana at the time. So I called her. She answered the phone. Her name is Noberta Montoya Dominguez. So I called her. She answered the phone. I asked for Bobby. Bobby is the one that answered the door that day when I went.
That's
my
why he looks like
brother. Yeah. And then I asked for Paul. Paul is my younger brother. They're all half siblings. So this is my younger brother from her husband that she's married to now at that time.
And Bobby, was he the same father as Paul?
No. Wanda and Bobby came from her first marriage. And then I was the one night stand, and then the brief affair. And then she got married to Paul Dominguez. And then little Paul, my younger brother, came between them.
So you're the only one that wasn't raised in the family.
Yes. So that's why I say that's the hard part is, she had 2 kids and got rid of me.
Did they know about your siblings?
Okay, now I keep on going with the story.
Okay.
So I asked her about Paul and Bobby. She goes, no. I goes, who is this? I goes, this is Jim Serrano. He goes, well, I don't recognize your name because I know all my son's friends' names. Can you do I know you? He goes, well, I have something to ask you. He goes, yeah. Because does January 22nd, 1962 mean anything to you? And it was dead silence on the phone. And I always remember her saying, who is this and why are you doing this to me? I goes, I'm not going to try and disrupt your life. This is who you think it is. I have a daughter and just, I would love to have some medical information. And she goes, she couldn't really talk. She couldn't talk. So she just goes, can we talk tomorrow? I go, sure, we could talk tomorrow. So I got off the phone with her. And I was such a wreck that my in-laws had to pick me up and take me home to Las Magas because I was in Gilroy because I couldn't drive. So I got home that night. Me and Tina were talking about it. We were in bed, and the phone rang. It was Noberta. She goes, Jim, can you meet me at Valley Medical Hospital in San Jose tomorrow instead of a phone call? I go, sure. He goes, my kids have doctor appointments there. But sure. So I met her there at a parking lot around 10 o'clock in the morning. Got out of my car. She got out of hers because she described me, her car and all the kids that she would have with her. So here's this little older lady came in and hugged me and cried in my arms, and I didn't have no feelings. It was no Hallmark movie. I didn't cry. I had no feelings for her. I didn't have nothing. My soul was, and my heart was really black. And I didn't really know what to think. So she, like I said, then she finally looked at me and goes, Jim, I have something to tell you. I goes, what? Because nobody knows about you. Your siblings don't know about you. My husband that I'm married to now doesn't know about you. Now, I think God has given me a second chance, so I got to go home and tell my husband and your siblings that you exist. You know, wow, okay, and see what happens. All right.
Who are the kids that were with her? Just
I'll keep on going. Like so,
like, wait,
it's okay. People stop me all the time. So, that night she called me up. She goes, you know what, Jim? I goes, my husband says it's not your fault that everything happened this way. He wants you to come to the house to meet the family and just to sit down and meet. I goes, sure, I would love to. So I went, and there was my two brothers and her husband, and he shook my hand and says, it's okay, man, just come in. So of course I was a nervous wreck, because
he's a good man.
Yeah, he is. He is. So
did they recognize you from doing the concrete stop?
No. My brother didn't. My brother Bobby, the one that answered the door, didn't recognize me. And so I seen all the little kids though, right? So I didn't ask. I thought they were just grandkids or something, right? I didn't ask. I was just more interested in talking to her and my brothers, right? So later on that night, I called her when I got home after the visit, and I told her, I goes, hey, are all those kids, are those all your grandkids and stuff? Paul and Bobby's or somebody's? She goes, no, Jim. I go, who are they? He goes, those are my foster kids. So her and her husband had 500 kids come through their home as foster kids.
It makes me sad.
Was it some sort of like atonement that she was feeling for having given you up?
Exactly.
Yes, because she got a lot of awards from the mayor of San Jose, and she never put up her awards. She always put it in a box and put it in the basement because nobody knew her secret. So that happened, and then I asked her, hey, is Carlos Bryan my father? I thought maybe the blood test was wrong. And she goes, no, that's not your father. Your father his name is Raul Coca. Okay, because how do I find him? I don't know. They hadn't seen each other in 38, 39 years. So, but I know your uncle still has a furniture store downtown San Jose, It was there for like 30, 50 years, at least 50 years. It was called Hank Coca's Downtown Furniture. It was even commercials on TV I used to see on it. And so that was my uncle's store. So I was delivering concrete right across the street. I seen the store. You know, well, Jim, walk in the store. So I walked in there and I asked for Hank Coca. And the guy that greeted me was Hank Coca Jr. He goes, no, my dad's not here, but I'm Hank Coca Jr. He's all right. I go, do you know a Raw Coca? He goes, yeah, I know Raw. He's my uncle. He goes, oh, okay. Why? You need him for something? He goes, well, I'm gonna come out and tell you. I might be his son. Here's my phone number. Tell him 1962. Tell him Norberta Montoya, because that was her main name, Montoya. Because okay, he looked like me, like kind of weird, you know. So,
I'm sure.
yeah. So here you go. I just see what happens. Left the furniture store, and maybe about 2 weeks after that, Norberta decided to throw me a party to introduce me to the family. So I went to her house and met the family, and on the way home, we're thinking, okay, well, this was 2 weeks later. He goes, well, he never called me, right? My biological father and stuff. So I said, oh, well, I guess he doesn't want anything to do with me, right? Or maybe thinking I was a nut or something. I don't know. So Tina tells me, babe, you have to listen to this, at good old answering machines, right? You got to listen to this answering machine. This message is for you. So, who is it? He goes, come listen to it. So I press the button and it says, hi, I'm Raw Coca. I might be your father. You want to meet? He goes, I'll meet you at Original Joe's. There's a famous restaurant in San Jose. I met you at Original Joe's for lunch. Okay. I met him. I was sitting out there at Original Joe's. Here he comes walking towards me, and God, it kind of looks like me. His face and it looks like me. But there was one thing about my biological father, Raw. He had a twin. He was a twin, and his twin looks exactly like me too. But his twin has a body like me. See, I have like big shoulders and kind of a husky guy, right? And that's how his twin looked like. My biological father was really thin, really skinny. And so, but his twin looks just like me. So, so we talked about his situation with Norberta and all that, and we went and took a blood test a week later, and 6 weeks later came back. It was positive. He was my dad. So
Did
This is a
he have
crazy
kids?
story.
yeah.
Did
So
Raul
then
have kids?
that's another thing. See, she kept the secret from everybody, right? So he didn't know I existed. He never had kids, and he never was married.
Oh,
All of a sudden, voila, you have a 37-year-old son and a granddaughter and a daughter-in-law.
and he never knew. She never did tell him.
Nope. Nope.
Was he
Never
happy?
told him. Yeah,
To
yeah.
have
He
you-
seemed like
yeah.
real happy because he was the only. It's a big family. The Cocas are a big family, but he was the only one that didn't have any kids or a family. Out of all the uncles, brothers, and sisters, everybody had big families, but him, he didn't have nobody.
Hey, Jim, I have a question for you to jump back for
Sure.
a second. You had said that when your birth mother hugged you, you felt nothing, that your soul and
Mhm.
heart were black. Did that change? Like when she invited you into the family, did it start to, did
I'm
you
glad
start
you
to?
asked.
Well, I'll keep on doing with the story. It has to do with the story about our relationship. I'm gonna be very honest with you. Our relationship for 20 years was a roller coaster. She did a lot of things that I didn't agree with her foster children. There's a lot of things we argued about because she thought she knew exactly what an adoptee feels like, just because she raised foster kids. And I told her, no, that's not how an adoptee feels. So our relationship was a roller coaster. It was up and down. Some years it was good. Some years we wouldn't talk for 3-4 months, 6 months. it was just, we couldn't understand each other. And that's one thing Tina used to tell me all the time, babe, she's never going to understand you, and you're never going to understand her. You guys are in complete different opposites in this situation of this adoption crap, you know? And so she just go, and our relationship wasn't, it was never, I never told her I loved her, to be honest with you. I never told her I loved her. She used to tell me, but I couldn't say it back.
Mm-hmm.
I could never call her mom. Maybe because every time I wanted to be number one. I wanted to be the number one thing in her life when I found her. Well, that didn't happen. I still felt like more of the black sheep of the family,
Mm-hmm.
because as someone that, see, remember, I always tell her, remember, I found you. You didn't find me. If I didn't go looking, you would have died with the secret, and nobody would have known about me. So that kind of hurt. And then her having the kids and then giving me up and raising all those kids, and so,
Yeah, all the kids are raised together except for you. It's like it's
and then
painful.
500 foster kids.
Yeah.
So
A lot of love for everybody but you, it feels.
yeah, exactly.
Even, that's, yeah.
Yeah. So that's our relationship. So on
Is
my
she still
third,
living?
she just passed away about 8 months ago.
Mm,
Oh.
and how did things change once you kind of opened up to Tina and Elizabeth about your sexual abuse? Did that kind of change any other relationships in your life?
Oh yeah, because you know what? I admitted to Tina who the person was maybe about a year ago.
Mm.
Because the hard part with that is, when I was dating Tina, we met on a blind date. We went to the same high school, graduated in the same year, but met on a blind date 2 years after.
Hmm.
So the house where she used to live at, I used to go pick her up all the time when we were dating, right? Well, where the sexual abuse happened was right across the street from where she lived.
Mm.
So I remember the images. I remember the room. I remember the smells. And every time I had to go pick her up, I had to look across the street. So I kept that a secret.
Talk about
from her, too.
compartmentalizing, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I finally told Tina, but like I said, a year ago, I was at work. I was at a job site, and I took a break, and I don't know what, I just started watching Antoine Fisher, my favorite movie. And I broke, and one of the scenes I broke, and it was when he was being left, when his foster mom was taking the kids to the county room, and he was being left with the person that was molesting them. Something triggered me that day, and I broke. So I told Tina who the person was that molested me. She's the only one that's ever going to know. And people always used to ask me, what would your hardest cry be? Well, probably my hardest cry was probably me at my mother's gravesite, that raised me. Because all I remember my mom always saying when my dad was beating me was, Jose, he's had enough. So she protected me. But also the other reason was because the person that molested me as a kid was there at the gravesite.
Mm. So layered.
So every time I go back to that, I break. And that's kind of probably the hardest cry I've ever had. And I had it in that job site about a year ago. The same type of cry I had at my mom's gravesite. It was because of that situation. So let me keep on the story. So she decides she wants to throw me a 38th birthday party, 38th surprise birthday party. Invited all my friends, closed a restaurant here in Gilroy, and invited, I don't know, 100, 200 people. I don't know what it was. But I found out about it about 2 weeks before from a friend of mine. He blew it. And I told Tina, is my parents going? Is my family going? Because yeah, they're going. Because oh, I knew they didn't want. Why are they going? They don't even ask me about it. I know they're not comfortable with it. So I was like, because remember, I started drinking when I was 10 years old, and I got there to the party, opened the door, and there's my mom, there's my dad, Roberta, my adopted mom, and her husband sitting at the same table.
Oh my goodness.
I looked at the table. I seen the hurt in my mom's face. I seen the anger in my dad's face, and of course, my adopted mother was all smiles.
You mean your birth
husband.
mother?
Birth mother, yes, birth mother. And I said, "Oh my, who's stupid enough to sit them at the same table?" So that night I got drunker than drunk, just drunk because I wanted to escape. That's why I used to drink. I escaped from reality. I escaped from the no love, the sexual abuse, being adopted, the abandonment. That's why I drank, because I didn't have to face all that crap in my heart. As a kid, I was always alone. You know, I was always alone. I could go to nowhere. So I always remember my dad at the end of the party. He goes, "Okay, Jim, we're going to talk about this tomorrow." He was pissed. It's my birthday
Well, I
party.
mean, they
He was
didn't
pissed
have
off
to
at me.
go.
No, yeah. So the next day, I was at the house, and
this
felt
was
like
this was your biological mom's idea to have this party?
yes,
Yeah, it's sort of crossing a lot of boundaries for you, in my opinion.
yes,
It's like
yes. Boundaries.
feels
I learned my
push-
boundaries probably the last 4 or 5 years of knowing her. I finally figured out
same
what
here.
boundaries was about. Yeah. So the next day I was at the house, and I felt like something was wrong with me. I felt like my heart was coming out of my chest, and I collapsed.
Mm.
I called Tina. I said, "Babe, call the ambulance. I think I'm having a heart attack. Something's wrong." So the ambulance came, picked me up, and they thought I had a heart attack. Took me to the hospital, put me in ICU. The next day, I'm sitting in the ICU. I'm sitting in the hospital bed. Here comes my adopted mother, walks into the room just to see how I was doing. 5 minutes later, here comes my adopted parents walking into the room. They're sitting there in the room, not saying a word to each other.
Oh, your birth mother came in and
Yes.
your adopted parents. Okay.
Sitting in the room, looking at me, not saying a word to each other. Right there, I'm saying, God, if I had a gun right now, I would just blow myself away. Because don't you guys get it? Don't you guys get it? And they did get it, because you know what? That's not the only time I had thought about taking my life. I thought during my teenage years, between the ages of 16 and 18, I had ways how I was going to kill my abuser, but I had ways how I was going to take my life too.
Mm.
See, so I had that in my mind already. That was the easy way out. So
Was this a heart attack or was it an anxiety attack?
after we found out it was an anxiety attack,
I'm sure.
but I was in ICU for 3 days and they couldn't figure it out. All of a sudden he says, "Okay, Jim, we can't figure this out, but you're fine. But we heard about your story and you're talking to your wife or whatever, and we want you to go see a therapist."
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go see a therapist, and of course, here's your good old supply of Paxil, antidepressants. There you go, Jim. Have fun with your life. Take them all. So here I am taking Paxil, still trying to live life. And
Did the therapist even speak to you about adoption?
Hell no.
Oh, so it was a psychiatrist, not a
Yes.
therapist. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, they don't. They just
Yeah.
They
you,
just
but-
drug you.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
end up did you end up getting into talk therapy after that?
Well,
And yeah, I mean,
I'll
we
keep
can-
on going. Yeah.
okay.
So after I was home for like 2-3 months, and then I finally went back to work. But I was still on Paxil. I was still on antidepressants, right?
And
So I
drinking.
get there and drinking. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mhm.
I mean,
Oh,
sometimes
no.
antidepressants
I
are very
wasn't.
helpful for people. So
I wasn't
don't
drinking
know how
anymore.
bad-
The
Oh,
last
okay.
drink I've
You
ever
got
had was
sober
on
by then.
my 38th birthday.
Ah,
was the
okay.
last time I've had a drink.
So right
So
then, right after this. Mm-hmm.
yes.
No,
So
no, right before the surprise party.
yeah, right at the surprise party. The surprise
Is-
party is my last time I had a drink.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went back to work, and a friend of mine, he goes, "Hey, what's going on, Jim?" So I told him what was going on. He goes, "Hey, you ever thought about coming to church with me, man?" He goes, "Nah, I don't need to church." So then maybe about 2 weeks later, he invited me again. So I said, "Okay, I'll go." So I finally went on a Friday night, I think it was, but I was late. But he was still waiting for me at the steps. So I went and seen all these people in church. I was like, "Okay, whatever," you know. And I still was on Paxil. We were attending this church, me and my wife, and I felt like I was having an anxiety attack again in church, in the church service, right? So Tina tells me, "Hey, don't you have your pills with you?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Well, go take one." So I went to go take one. But by the time I took it and came back to my seat, I felt different. I don't know. I just felt different. So I got home that day after from church, and I got all my pills, my Paxil, and I threw it down the drain. I had an appointment with my therapist or psychiatrist, whatever he was, 2 days after that. And he asked me how things were going. I told him, I threw all my medication away. He goes, "What? You can't do that, Jim." He goes, "Well, I did it. I don't need you." I goes, "What do you mean you don't need me?" He goes, "I'm fine." So I threw it all away and started being sober. I'm still sober till at this time in my life. And then, our ups and downs, our relationship between me and her were like a roller coaster. Like I said, I got to meet all my biological father's side, and he passed away about 10 years ago from Parkinson's disease.
And you were close to him for that?
Not really,
No.
not really. No, because he didn't really know how to react to the whole situation. We weren't close. We used to talk once in a while. Maybe out of the 10 years I knew him, maybe 10 times. But I met the family is awesome. The whole family has just been very loving to me.
Oh,
I mean, I can't say,
that's great.
yeah, I can't say that. I mean, I can say that with both families. They've been loving to me, welcoming me, but it's just that the relationship with my biological mother didn't work out, because there was a roller coaster. So that couldn't work out, but everybody else has welcomed me.
And you have a lovely wife and
Yeah.
a really great daughter, and so there are
Mhm.
lots of gifts with the pain
Yeah,
and the
with me
loss.
too. I mean, I always think about there's one thing ever since I've been telling my story. That's one thing that hurt me a lot too. Is see, I've lost family members for telling my story because
I'm
I tell the
sure.
truth. I tell the
Mhm.
truth, and not one of them have ever came to me to ask me about who it was that molested me, or
Mm.
they're sorry that happened.
No
Not
one.
one. Nobody.
Is that person still alive? The
I have
molester?
no idea. The
Hmm.
last time I seen him was at my mom's gravesite, and that was 20 years ago. So who knows? So he's probably what, 15 years older than me now, and I'll be
Has anyone
61.
in your family ever asked, in your adopted family ever asked you or your sister, just how does it feel to be adopted? Or you went through it? Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Nobody,
I
even my own
figured,
sister.
but
Yeah, even my own sister Barbara, that was adopted with me. We never talked about it as kids. Never
no,
talked about it.
What about,
no,
do you talk
She,
about it now?
yes, because she's
Yeah,
heard
I
my
mean, as
story.
kids, my brother and I didn't talk about it. I
no.
think that's
Yeah,
really, that's very typical. I don't think that's
yeah.
unusual.
Has she gotten to know your families, your two families? Barbara, has she gotten to know your bio?
No,
No.
no, because I think she's more into. I think what scared her off of searching was hearing my story,
Mm,
and I think she's very loyal to my mom and dad that raised us.
Mm.
Even till, I mean, like I said, they've been gone for years, but I think she's really more loyal to them than the guilt, I guess. Me, I had to do what I had to do.
yeah.
But as I said, I lost a lot of family members from telling my story. I mean, I've had people say, "You're not a man because of you crying like a little baby," and baby, shit, I'm telling you
Ugh.
the story.
You,
You don't know my story.
okay. You're not, fine. These were not
Yeah,
meant to be
yeah.
in your, I mean, who needs that?
So,
You really, it's
yeah.
like going for, really, it's having healing people in your life and not people who make you feel bad. It's just,
Exactly.
it's not worth it anymore.
You're very brave.
Yeah.
It's a big journey you've been on. And coming from the family you came from,
Mm.
you're very brave. It's
Yes.
I really like
and
Tina, by
open.
the way. I'm a big fan of Tina.
Well, you know,
Um,
you could go on YouTube and you could go at Tina Serrano, and a Fireside interviewed Tina on
Oh,
how it is to be married to an adoptee.
I'm gonna look
was
her
that
up.
Greg that interviewed her?
No, it was Dusty interviewed her.
Mm-hmm.
That was before Craig started being a host.
I'm gonna look
Hey,
her up.
what, one last question. Are you
Sure.
still in touch with your brothers and Wanda? Bobby, Paul, and
Well,
Wanda?
my brother Bobby that met me at the door, he passed away like about 4 years ago from diabetes.
Hmm.
Oh,
My sister Wanda texts once in a while. My brother Paul, we've never been close. We've never been close. The last time I seen all of them probably was at my mother's funeral, and that was like 9 months ago, and I haven't seen them since. I mean, of course, you hear that same old story, you know, we got to stay in touch. We got to stay in touch, you know, but that never happened. I mean, I'm tired of reaching out all the time because why do I? And Tina always tells me, "Babe, you reach out to them." I'm tired of reaching out. I've been playing that facade, happy guy with a big old smile and not showing my pain. I'm tired of doing that. It's about Jim now. And then you asked me about therapy
like
and
that.
stuff like that. You asked me about therapy and all that. I mean, I've never gone to a therapy on the adoption part, but I went to my first meeting on sexual abuse about 3 weeks ago.
oh, good,
Good
Jim.
for you.
Yeah, I finally, and it was like about 20 of us, and that was very interesting to hear all the story. Not they didn't really tell too much of their stories, but it kind of felt like my first adoptee support
Yeah.
meeting.
Well, I'm
God,
really
it's,
glad you're
you know,
taking these steps to
yeah,
heal yourself
I
and
have
being
to. I'm she's 61 years old.
100%.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, but no, like a lot of people wouldn't
Mhm.
do that. And so it's
Yeah.
really admirable. Many men in with your kind of background and your
agree.
life would
Mhm.
just shut
Be
it
men have-
down.
angry.
You know?
And
Yeah.
men have came to me since I've been telling my story and meeting some of their sexual abuse as a kid. So
This
people always,
is a big thing, and it's very it's very powerful that you're doing that. Very powerful. I think so many people live with this inside and never talk to
yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, and people always tell me, "Goes, why do you do this, Jim? Why do you keep on doing interviews? Doesn't it like bring back the past?" Goes, no. Why I do it because I'm not going to let the trauma defeat me. If I don't keep on telling the story and being transparent, how am I going to help anybody? I don't want anybody to hold their secret all their
Mhm.
lives like I did. It took me 50 years to start talking about my secrets, and I don't want anyone to live like that. I don't want anyone to feel the hurt that I felt all my life.
No.
That's why a lot of these adoptive support groups, they're younger kids. They're all gonna be my kids. And I look at them and I go, oh man, it kind of brings back memories how I was when I was their age. But when I was their age, I didn't have support groups. Now we do.
Yeah.
And now we talk the truth. Now we get out the truth and we talk. Back when I was a kid, we didn't talk about that, especially sexual abuse.
Mm-mm.
Adoptees, we didn't talk about that. Shit, my dad would have kicked my ass if I would have went, hey dad, I don't want to go with you to Theo cells. What do you mean? No, you're going. Come on, let's go. I would try to get away out of it all the time because I knew what was going to happen to me if I went there.
I'm so sorry. God.
See? So, but what can I do? I was a 9-10-year-old kid. I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And the stuff that he used to tell me what he was going to do if I said anything. You know, I have nobody. You know, and the adoptees are always trying to get home, right? We're always trying to get home.
Mhm.
I'm almost there, but
I like that.
I'm still
Always
far
trying to
away.
get home.
I'm still far away from it. So
Well, thank you so
my
much
story.
for sharing this with us, Jim. We really,
Really.
really appreciate it.
well,
Very
thank
brave.
you.
And
Thank you.
thank you. And stay in touch with us, please.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
please do. And go
Okay.
Broncos. Okay. Because I see your background. So
Raider Nation. Raider Nation.
whatever. We'll have to talk.
All right,
Thanks,
ladies.
Jim.
Bye,
Thank you.
Jim.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.